over 100 different terroirs, Irish terroirs.
What you're never sure about is how will one farm react with another farm.
I won't accept the ordinary. Why should you? Why should anybody?
People have been talking about single farms, but Mark's plan always was and always is the cuvee, the sum of parts. Cuvee for us is multi-layer, multi-farm, the most complex, profound whiskey in the world, and that's a bold statement. I like it anyway, and I hope you do as well. Layers and layers and layers of flavours. 25 single farms, and there's organic in there. I had a conversation with Mark before we started doing bottlings. He's just said, leave the farms do the talking. You want to bring out the best of the farm. So if a farm is this type of whiskey, you want to bring out the best of that. And when it came to the cuvee, it was a showcase of Waterford, I suppose is what I was trying to do.
You know, there's a thing in tasting called persistence, which is how long the flavour, once you've tasted it, remains imprinted on your brain. The more flavoursome something is, the longer it stays. So I would just say to you, when you try the cuvee, is see how long that memory of the taste stays with you.
The whiskey's flavour is actually from the barley, and the style of spirit is from the distillery, the way we run the stills and how we choose to make our cut, and it goes into the 4 cask types which we're using the cuvee. Each cask that the spirit spends its time in will contribute to it. Each farm is kept separate. The micro-oxygenation from the wood and the properties from the wood will marry with the spirit. Each farm gives us roughly about 200 casks.
How many single cask Châteaux Lafitte's or Châteaux Margaux or Le Musigny's have you ever seen? And the answer is nil, never. They don't do it. Because the simple reason is they know that the agglomeration of those components produces a superior experience.
Mark knew he wanted to buy the best casks he could get. Roughly, each farm is going to get American first fill 50%, American virgin 20%, French wine cask 15%, and VDN Vin Natural sweet fortified wine 15%. Each row is one farm.
We've let people try the single farms individually to see the difference between them, to taste, to experience the difference between them. The goal has always been to assemble them, you know, layer upon layer of different flavour complexity that comes when you put it in a glass and you let that flavour do the talking.
It is literally about trying to bring them together to be the sum of their parts. So the overall is greater than the sum of the parts, and that's actually pretty nice there now. That is very tasty whiskey. It's a bit like a chef with really, really good ingredients, and he knows what each ingredient can give him, and it's up to him then to put those together. You're working with the casks and the farm to show the farm in its best light, and it's the cuvee, that marriage of farms in the best light, so it's layers and layers of flavour. Every time you go back, you're getting a different sensation. You're trying to get each farm to contribute the best of itself. So on the day that we actually put it into the bottle, it's the best it can be.
The great Bordeaux's, you look at Château Latour, Grand Vin is on the label, huge words. Château Lafite, Château Margaux, Grand Vin. It means big wine, because the big wine is made up of 50 or so little wines from grapes that are ideally suited to the terroir of the estate, you know, the sandy bits, the gravelly bits, the clay bits, ideally suited to optimize the quality of that grape on that piece of ground. Cultivated separately, harvested separately, vinified separately, barreled separately, and then, only then, are they assembled together in varying proportions to create the great wine, the big wine. Our Grand Vin is the cuvee. The little wines are the single farms.
So we have the American first fill, we have the American Virgin, the French and the VDN. So that spirit would have taken some of the properties of the wood out, as well as the terroir that's influenced it as well. We'll see how this goes together. The sharpness is just the predominant flavour and your palate is kind of shocked. I'll just try and put a little bit more of this in, so I think it would, and straight away I can smell that it's softer. All those flavours are coming out now. These are good, these are nice. This is better. I will add a little bit more of the Virgin. So the nose is still good, maybe even a little bit touch better. So we'll have a little bit of a taste of this, launch it. It's mouth-watering, it's marmaladey, it's upfront, it's chewable. The spice comes in, not the huge hit, but just enough, stays there. It's bread and butter pudding, it's raisins, it's just lovely. Even if you have farms which are side by side with small differences in each farm, we'll say trees or a bow in the field where the soil is a little bit heavier, there's nuances there. So for me, you know, when we get a new farm in every week, it's a new week. And when you're doing that for 25 single farms and the organic, it obviously, you're kind of going into the unknown a little bit.
That is how they get that ultimate complexity in there, because they're making 50 individual wines that are speaking of the terroir on which they were grown, with their own attributes of flavour, influenced, derived from that terroir, and then you're putting them together. It's a complete mindfuck of flavour complexity. Why not with whiskey?
So we'd say the Elton style type, which a few of the farms would have, will give us that barnyardy note, that earthy note, that's a little bit, I would describe as dour. And then you have the Seafield styles and Clonroach styles maybe that are fresh fruits, dried fruits and herbs. And then obviously each field where it's grown on the farmland as well. So I suppose it's hard to know exactly how one farm will combine with another farm.
The length of flavour, the intensity of flavour, the complexity of flavour. If you do use decent barley, if you do distill slowly, if you do use decent wood, yes, you are able to make whiskies that are far more interesting, far earlier. If you can show whiskey to be that profound, that compelling, that enjoyable, this whiskey is getting more round, it's getting more complex, those flavours are evolving even more. You know, the fun thing is, it's not like you're at the end, you're at the beginning. It's early days. It sort of begs the question, what's everybody else doing?